Hello and welcome to Make 100 Games. This is video number 3 in my series about building a cartoony Mario Kart-esque kart racer. In the last video, we gave our track a cartoony aesthetic by modifying the terrain shader. We disabled the soft blending between the grass and the dirt, added a little fading shadow between grass and dirt, and added a Fresnel effect. In this video, I want to show you how you can add some track details, such as some grooves that follow the path, as well as some tire treads. Last but not least, we will add a checkered line. We will be doing this using Unity's decal projectors. We are using the universal rendering pipeline for this. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so what I want to do in this step here is basically, as mentioned, add some details to this track here. And what I'm thinking of right now are just kind of like, some basic grooves that follow the path of the track, and some tire treads here and there, and of course a checkered line to kind of denote where the start and finish is. So the first thing we're going to do to actually get this to work, so there's a myriad of ways of doing this, and if you have other ways that work really well for you, I'd love to hear about them in the comments, but I will show you the way that I used for this. So what we're going to do first is we're going to add a camera, an orthographic camera. So we're just going to add a camera here called screen capture, and we're going to use this camera to basically capture our track. So let's first make this orthographic, and we're just going to zoom out here, up here, somewhere here, and move the camera there, and we're going to just make sure that the camera can see the track like this. And then we're going to attach a script to this camera, and I'll provide the script in the description, or a link to it rather. And before we're going to do that, we're going to actually create a folder here. We'll call it scripts. And we're going to go to the camera, and we're going to add a script called camera screen capture. We're going to open this, and we're going to paste in the code that I'll provide. So what this script basically does is it allows us to capture what the camera sees and save it to an image. And we will then use this image to essentially paint the terrain. So we're going to go ahead and run our game, and we're going to hit C to capture, and we're going to stop. And now when we go to the project folder, we should find a screen capture. Actually, we should even see it in here. So here's our screen capture. It is a nice image here that contains our track, and it should be about a 1024 by 1024 image. So let me go and find it in my assets here. Perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to now create a new file in Krita. We're going to give this a bit of a higher resolution, so 2048 by 2048. That has worked well for me. So we're going to open or create this, and we're going to drag in our image here that we captured. This will be our reference image, and we're going to scale this up to fit the canvas. And we're going to set the type here to overlay. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new fill layer, simplex noise. We're going to increase the frequency to a pretty high value here. Increase this and decrease the Y. Increase this maybe a little more. Something like this. We're going to click OK. We're going to take the select tool, and we're going to select a rectangle here, like this. We're going to copy and paste this rectangle so that it's a separate layer. We're going to deselect. We're going to hide our fill layer here so that we just see this one here, and we're going to add a transparency mask. Now, with the transparency mask selected, and make sure that you have the color black here, we're going to take this gradient tool, and we're just going to soften these edges here, so that it's not so abrupt. We don't want a hard cut here. Okay, and with this done, we're going to flatten this layer. We can now get rid of the background, and now we can kind of see our texture here on the track. And what this basically will be, this will become our track detail. These will be these grooves that will follow the track around. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this, and we're going to position it as the way we want. We're going to now, this is the part where it gets a bit tedious. And again, if you have a better way of doing this, let me know. But I'm just going to place these all around the track. And before we do this for the entire track, we're actually just going to preview this whole thing in Unity to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. But we're going to do we're going to place a couple of textures here just to get a bit of the track decorated. And let's also just do the corner here, because these corners are also always where things tend to get a bit tricky, and where things tend to start to look a little different. You essentially want to test this out in different angles, something like this. And what we're going to now do, we're actually going to just back up one of these in case we do like this. We're going to take all the other ones. We're going to merge them all. Just below, we're going to create a white background, or a layer with a white background. We're going to merge it with our texture. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a normal map of this. So we're going to do etch detection and height to normal map. And we're going to hide this here. We're going to go here. We're going to export this and call it track decal. Export to PNG. Now, next thing we have to do is we have to create an albedo for this as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide this here. We're going to bring this back in. And what I found to be pretty easy is just to copy this here, hide one of them, and we're just going to take the eraser. So we're going to go here, select the eraser, check the settings here, make sure that the fade is as smooth as it can be, and make the eraser fairly large, even larger, something like this. So we get a nice fade, and we're just going to erase everything that isn't going to be part of the track's decoration. So basically everything around here, we're going to erase. These are the parts that will essentially be, that'll be masked away by our decoration. And the reason why I want to have an eraser with a smooth fade out is so that this mask is not too abrupt, so that our decoration doesn't just cut out immediately, but fades away. Do the same for the middle here. And we're going to get rid of everything out here as well. Technically, we probably won't see this when we play the game because it's behind these hills, but still, I'm just going to get rid of it. Okay, so we have our mask. We're going to export this mask here and call track decal albedo. Now we're going to jump back into Unity, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a decal projector. So under rendering, we have this URP decal projector. We can call it track details projector. Over here, you'll see a warning, or you might see a warning that this render feature hasn't been added yet. So we're just going to hit open. We're going to scroll down here. We're going to add the feature, select decal here, and go ahead and select use rendering layers as well, because we might need that later. Close this. And what we're going to do next is we're going to first add the textures that we created into Unity. So let's drag them in there. We're actually going to rename this to normal. Drag in both of these things here. Select the normal map and turn it into a normal map. Hit apply. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go to materials and create a new material. We'll call it detail, track details, decal. We're going to select the shader and type in decal, select shader graph decal. And now for our normal, we're going to drag in our normal. And for our base map, our albedo. What we want to do now is we want to align our projector with our camera. So we're going to select our camera. We're going to go to the transform and hit copy component. We're going to go to the projector, go to the transform, go to paste, component values, and our projector should now be aligned. So if we look at a projector here, of course, it is very high up. These values here are, of course, it's way too far up. So we can also just move this down a little bit because it is in the end also like an orthographic projection kind of thing. Okay, that was too far down. We do want it to be above the terrain. We're going to kind of orient ourselves along here. So the size 101, we're going to try that here for size. And we're going to give it a much longer depth here. And we're going to assign it the material that we created. So we see here it's still too small. So we're just going to go and play with these values until they kind of match, and that matches pretty well. So what we can see here now is we are essentially projecting this normal map onto our terrain with this decal projector. So if we look at our material here, we have a base map that is basically the same as our track and a normal map that are these grooves. And we can now, of course, play with these values here. We can make the normal map a bit more strong, or we can go to the projector and reduce its opacity if we don't want it to be quite as strong here. And we can just give it a quick preview, and we can now actually also get rid of this camera. We can now give it a quick preview to see what this looks like, just to get an idea and see where this is all headed. And it's looking pretty cool. So one thing you'll notice is that our player has the decal projected onto himself as well. So we're going to get rid of that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our player. We're going to check the cart visual here. And yes, we'll select the cart body here. We will select none and then select a different layer that is not the layer that the projector is on. And we're going to select the player idle as well. We're going to take the template character here, select none, light layer, and then same for the wheels here. Select them all, select none and light layer. And now the projector is no longer going to project onto our player. So if we drive over here, so this is looking pretty good. One thing you'll notice here is actually this little guy right here. That's our character in the screenshot of the camera that we are now projecting onto our track. So we're going to go back into Krita and we're going to finish up this detail normal map and also get rid of this little error here in our albedo map. So let's jump back over to Krita and wrap that up. So we can start off straight with this one here. We can erase this character here. So probably easiest way to do this is to select this clone tool, which would be this one here. Reduce the size of our brush. Maybe just do something like this. Doesn't need to be perfect. That should take care of that. And let's go ahead and save this. I'd say I'm pretty happy with the way these track details look. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue with that. So let's get rid of this part here. Bring our reference image back for painting. Take our copy that we have here. And we'll essentially now, because we just did a little test run before, we're going to have to now actually do the full-on decorating of this track. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Okay, so we pretty much painted the entire track. So what I want to do now is I want to erase the outside parts here. I don't really want it to go all the way to the edge and mask. I would like that these grooves maybe don't go all the way to the edge here, but so that we still see a little bit of the normal map that we added last time, just so that it kind of blends together and looks nice. So let's go ahead and merge all this stuff here. Let's grab our eraser. Make sure we have a decent size here, something like this. The bigger the size, the more of a fade out we get. Let's try it with this. These grooves basically kind of represent where all the kart racers usually drive, so we don't really want to have as many grooves here in the edges. Really just kind of where most of the racers actually drive. And we also just generally kind of want it to fade out softly and smoothly here. We don't want a hard cut. I mean, our pattern that we made earlier does have a fading edge, but still maybe just soften in some places here. And here where it goes into the grass, we don't really want that. Again, our albedo mask does take care of this, but I don't want it to go that high up here either. Okay, I think we are mostly pretty set here. I think it's time to create a normal map here and see what this actually looks like in our game. So we're going to just go ahead and add the white background here one more time. So let's make a fill layer here, make it white, merge it here with this one. That's good. Create a normal map. That's pretty good here. Drop this part here. Okay, and let's just go ahead and try this out. Export. This will be the track decal normal. Let's bring that back into Unity. Make sure to change it to a normal map, otherwise it will look weird. And we have our details here. So if you fly over this here, this honestly looks pretty all right. It looks kind of like sand or grooves in sand. And we still kind of have the normal map here on the side. So there's a nice bit of blending going on that I really quite like. As you can see, we didn't replace the albedo yet. So let's go ahead and do that also. FYI, if you don't add an albedo, you just have this big old white snow looking thing. So that's not really what we want to go for here. So let's bring the albedo back in. Check here, and our guy is gone. No longer baked into the albedo map. Let's just give it a quick drive here. I think that looks pretty great. I like it. Okay, so there are two more things I want to add. The first thing I want to add is a couple of tire tread decals. Not too many. I want to keep the number of decals kind of low because I don't know how it'll affect performance, particularly in lower end devices. And the other thing I want to have is a checkered line. So let's go ahead and go back to Krita and create a new file. This time it will be something like this here, maybe 4096. We're going to make it quite long, but 1024. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our brush. So I went ahead and downloaded a bunch of tire tread brushes. You can find those online. I don't think I have the link handy at the moment. I'm going to select one here, and I'm just going to paint a couple of tire treads here. Create a normal map. Let's also create a albedo map. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try to get a color as close as possible to what we have on the track. So we're going to try another fill layer here. We're going to add another transparency mask. Something like this here. We're going to export this as a transparency mask, or as an albedo, excuse me. And now we can return here, and we are going to create another decal projector. We'll call it tire treads. Let's bring this thing up and over here. Let's place it roughly where we want it to be. Let's go ahead and create another material called tire treads. It's again going to be a decal from shader graph. Now let's go ahead and pull in our textures. So this will be the tire treads albedo and the normal. This is a normal map. And go back to our tire tread material and assign the albedo and the normal. And last but not least, let's assign our material. And of course, we can't see anything yet because it's not projecting far enough. So let's give this one 20 here. And you can already see if we go in really close here, you can see something there. So we're going to make this bigger. And again, it's a factor of 2, or a ratio of 2 by 1. Or actually, it's 4 by 1, excuse me. And you can already see something here. You see the tire tracks. So let's just rotate this. Of course, we do want the tire treads to be like realistically sized. So we don't want it to be like way wider than the tires of our cart. So let's just check this briefly here. So they seem rather wide. Let me see how long this is. Maybe we can get away with it being a little slimmer. Maybe something like 7/28, I guess. Of course, that's quite narrow, but it looks better. Yeah, it looks better. Now, what I don't like, of course, is that you can see it. It's like, it looks like a carpet, right? Like there's this, it's much lighter here than the surroundings. So let's see if we could just play with the properties of the projector to try and correct this. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and turn down the opacity here. And of course, that also means we can't really see the treads that well. So let's go ahead and select the tread material and just increase the normal blend. And as you can see, we see the normal, or the treads reappearing, but we don't have this carpet effect quite strongly. So I think like this could be quite all right. So let's just give this a go here. And it looks quite nice. We have tire treads, but we don't really notice any kind of carpeting effect. So let's go ahead and just let's have like 1 or 2 more of these tire tread decals because they look quite nice. Maybe we can just take this one here and just move it back a little bit here. Copy it one more time. A aligned it with the grooves of the sand. Move it up a little bit. So of course, individual decals, you may have to play with these values a bit more. Yeah, because here it seems like it's a bit darker, so it might be a bit more noticeable here. So we're going to reduce the opacity here even a bit more. And just hope that we see the treads. We do see them. And let's put some on the other side here as well. Let's also reduce the opacity ever so slightly here. Subtle, but it's there. And maybe place it here as well. We of course don't really want it to not align too much with the curves here, but let's give this a go and just drive around and see if we notice these treads. Here they are. And here as well. Subtle for sure, but a nice touch. Okay, we're almost done. What I want to do now is just add the checkered starting line. So we're also going to be doing this with a decal, and we're going to use the same size here, 4x1. Let's go with a fill layer, and I believe we're going to use this. There we go, 3 and 4. Give it a nice overlay here, 100%. Make it white. Take the other one, give it an overlay of black. And we have our checkered line. So of course, what we have to do here as well is we're going to have to add some fading edges. And there won't be a normal map here. So this will just be our albedo. So we got to add the fade to this. So let's add a transparency mask. And okay, let's go ahead and export this one more time here. We're going to create our last decal projector here. Let's just go ahead and copy one of these here. Actually, maybe the one that's closest to the player. Maybe this one here. Let's call it checkered line. We're actually going to leave, so we're going to go ahead and copy this material, call it checkered line. Add our checkered line texture, and we're not gonna add a normal map this time. We're just gonna add this here, and let's go to this decal projector and add our material. Okay, so let's also just rotate this into place. So this is our checkered line. So we don't need it to be this transparent, right? We can actually increase the opacity here. That looks pretty great. Doesn't need to be quite this big. Maybe we can try 20 by 5. What does this look like? I think this looks pretty good for as a start here. We can maybe rotate it into place a little more. Something like this here. Take our character here, rotate him into place as well. Lower him down. And this is looking pretty good. Let's give this a go. This looks great. Let's give it a lap. Looks great. Okay, so that's it. I think our track's looking a lot better now. Not only do we have a couple of nice grooves that follow the path, but we even have a few tire treads and a checkered line. This really gives it a bit of polish. Now, like I said, there's probably a lot of ways to achieve these effects. If you have a better way of doing this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I'm always looking to learn new tricks. In the next video, we'll be adding some trees, grass, and fences around our track, so be sure to subscribe and check back next week. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.